If you've ever wondered what the process is actually like of coming in, sitting down with a financial advisor and having that first conversation or having the ongoing conversations, especially a financial advisor that really is not just thinking about, okay, how can I take your money and put it in stocks, but how can I help you
Mhm.
with your finances? You're really going to want to watch this video today. I'm Roy Furr with Asset Strategies. I'm here with Mandy Miser. Mandy, welcome.
Thank you.
Mandy is the Senior Vice President of Advisory with Asset Strategies and a financial advisor meeting with clients every day. And Asset Strategies from our offices in Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska, we serve over 2,000 clients in 48 states.
Mhm.
So, Mandy, the actual process of sitting down with an asset strategies advisor, I think a lot of folks, in fact, I was speaking with a client yesterday who said that it feels very different. What she was saying was that it's more than just like an investment manager. It's not some big corporate entity where you're just going into an office and sitting down with somebody,
Mhm.
that it's like sitting down with somebody who's truly a financial advisor, like someone who's doing the work beyond just what you're getting paid for
Sure.
and helping someone with their finances
Mhm.
in the long run. So we have this internal tool, and it's a guide that you use. It's not
Yes.
a form that people fill out,
Right.
and it just guides that conversation. So I wanted to talk through some of the topics that you're covering.
Okay.
So you start, of course, figuring out about the family, and so you're asking about the the couple,
Mhm.
if it's a couple,
Mhm.
asking about kids in the family,
Mhm.
just getting a sense of who they are,
Mhm.
ages, all of that, because that's going to impact. Obviously, like my kids at their age have a different impact on my financial picture than different people with kids at different ages. Then you start to look at like what are the day-to-day finances like? What's the cash flow like? So, it's kind of funny as we're having this conversation, I'm not quite sure how to ask the right questions. Can you talk to me a little bit about this first part where
Mhm.
you're just trying to get a picture of the cash flow?
Yeah. Well, before I can ever make any recommendations to anyone or help put them on a path that's going to help achieve their goals, I
Yeah.
need a really good idea of where they're at today. So,
Yes.
what do their finances look like today? What does their income look like? Do they have any outstanding debts? How much do they have left to pay on the house? Do you have any money set aside in an emergency fund in the bank somewhere for a rainy day or when life throws them a curveball? All of those things help paint a picture of where starting point A is.
Yeah,
And I need to know A before I can get them to B.
for sure.
Hmm.
So obviously, like our day-to-day
Hmm.
expenses, our day-to-day income
Yes,
are going to impact any kind of long-term plan that we can make.
absolutely. Hmm.
Okay. So that kind of covers the cash flow, the debt, like and the note here you're asking about things like credit card debt, about car loans, student loans,
Yes.
mortgage,
Hmm.
because all of that, um, I I've heard it said that the only guaranteed investment is paying off debt because that's interest that you don't have to pay later. Uh,
Exactly.
and if it's a credit card, it's a much better return than you can expect in the stock market for the most part.
I wouldn't go chasing that though.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so then you start to move into things that are generally thought of as more what a financial advisor will cover.
Mhm.
So things like savings and investments
Mhm.
and net worth. When you're looking at that for a new client, like what is that telling you? What are you looking for? How does that inform the conversation?
Well, I mean, obviously, I want to know, do they have a 401k or any sort of work plan? Are they
Mhm.
taking advantage of that? What are the specifics surrounding that plan? Because for most people, that ends up being the biggest piece of their financial puzzle,
Yeah,
and so we need to make sure that they're making the most of that
yeah,
and taking full advantage. We want their money to work as hard for them as it possibly can, right?
yeah,
So some people are doing that and participating in their 401k, but they don't know that there's some customizations within that. Is it Roth? Is it traditional? What sorts of funds are they invested in? And so we want to get that as efficiently tuned in as we possibly can. Above and beyond that, I'm looking for their priorities of where does their extra money at the end of the month go?
yeah.
I'm looking for disciplined behavior.
Yes.
Hmm.
Chad has made it clear that discipline is a huge long-term success factor
Yes,
for folks. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, and then you start to look at things that are are important, like their goals, their vision for
Mhm.
retirement. And it seems like at this point, you can have a very informed conversation about, well, you've saved $10,000 or you've saved, 2 or $3 million. And how realistic are the goals and vision for the retirement based on where you're at now? Is there anything else that starts to tell you in terms of how that informs that conversation?
Well, when we start talking about the future and their goals for the future, I kind of break it down in three sections. We look
Okay.
at short term, intermediate term, and long term. Short term between now and the next 5 years.
Okay.
Intermediate term is that huge, vast expanse of time from 5 years from now all the way up till retirement. And then long term would be retirement and beyond. And so we just kind of make different categories of these goals. And in essence, we're kind of racking and stacking the priority of them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess that starts to inform what's going to come next, which is talking about investments
Mm-hmm.
and the plan, how to get from where you are now to where you want to be.
Right.
So there's a really important conversation here that you have, like risk tolerance, his and hers before,
Uh-huh.
risk tolerance, his and hers after. So a couple comes in
Mm-hmm.
and you ask about their risk tolerance, their tolerance for investment
Right.
at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a little conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that conversation. So what does that typically look like?
Well, the word risk in and of itself is kind of scary,
It
and
is.
people shy
Yeah.
away from it. So the second I say risk tolerance, people automatically, more times than not, their knee-jerk response is either middle of the road or very conservative,
Yeah.
because risk sounds daunting.
It does. Yeah.
So I always like to kind of get a gauge of where they are innately, like just their gut. Where does their gut tell them to be
Yeah.
innately? But so much around that risk tolerance discussion is formed through understanding how investments work.
Yeah.
And so then I bring in the education side of things and explain what the stock market is and what a stock is versus a bond and mutual funds and what types of investments are out there and the pros and cons of each of them. And once I break all of that down and then explain kind of a risk tolerance scale of things and where all of those different types of investments fit on that scale,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like light bulbs just start going off. And they understand that, risk really isn't that scary when we understand exactly what the investments are doing and how they work and what they are. And then we factor in what timeline we're working within.
Yeah.
Are we working within those short-term goals that we talked about, those intermediate-term goals, or those long-term goals that we talked about? And the longer the timeline, the more technically you can afford to be a little bit more aggressive or risky with your investments. And so once we dive into the specifics of all of those things, then I ask them the question again.
Yeah.
And once they have that education on that, I think they're able to answer that question a little more thoroughly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. I absolutely understand that from the perspective of, you look at a long enough timeline,
Mm-hmm.
your comfort with the stock market gyrations. If you zoom out, it's a term I like to use.
Yeah.
Zoom out. It can feel more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
just being more fully invested. Then you end the conversation with a plan with recommendations. So what does that typically look like? Maybe for an initial client appointment. Yeah.
Well, that obviously is going to vary from person to person, from couple to couple, because based on where they are at point A,
Yeah.
what did their finances look like? My recommendation might be we need to focus all of your energy right now on paying off that car or
Yeah.
paying down that credit card, building up that emergency fund because you're going to need it. That's just how life is. There's just always something, especially if you're a homeowner.
Yeah.
I mean, the
For sure.
HVAC goes out or the lawnmower needs replaced. I mean, you name it, it's going to happen. And so I want you to be able to pay cash for those things. And so just depending on where you're at right now will heavily dictate what my next step plans are for you. But that's an ongoing conversation because that ball is always moving.
Yeah.
And I really, this is the best part about my job is watching people check off those goals that they outlined. Okay,
Yes.
we paid off the credit card. Great, what's next?
Yeah.
What do we do next? The emergency fund's in place. Okay, awesome. Now let's really hit those investments. Okay, what are we doing with that?
Yeah.
And it's rewarding for me to watch people just kind of plow through those very intentionally.
Yeah. So we have people come in at all different phases,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're really just trying to get their financial footing underneath them,
Yes.
or they saved $1 million, a couple of $1 million, and they're saying, oh shoot, like the complexity of what I needed to do to save this money as I was working is much smaller than the complexity of living off that money in retirement. And so I need help. And so the plan and recommendations just becomes the next best steps. Like
Yep.
here's the goals. Here's what we're trying to achieve. Here's what we're working with.
Right. And if I'm talking to somebody who's already done that hard work
Yeah.
of saving and they've got a substantial 401k or investments outside, now it becomes, what sort of tweaks and adjustments do we need to make sure that your your plan is as efficient and effective as we can make it? You did the disciplined part of the whole equation.
Yeah.
Which is the part I can't really do for people. I can
Yeah.
encourage them. Sometimes I feel more like a behavioral counselor than a financial counselor, but the hard work and the discipline of it is really on them.
Yeah.
And, once they've done that part, then I get to kind of come behind and be like, okay, look at what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
What do we do now? What kind of tweaks and adjustments can we make that are going to even help you be that much more successful? Are there tax strategies that we need to look at? Do we need to start looking at Roth conversions? Do we need to start thinking about, when are we going to be taking Social Security and making sure that we're being as holistic in our planning as we possibly can be?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's perfect.
Mhm.
So I think the beauty of this is that it covers so many points without having any details like by itself.
Mhm.
And so it's filling in those personalized details, and it really drives a very personal conversation
Mhm.
that helps people make educated, informed financial decisions.
Right.
Okay. So I think that it really is having tools like this and having advisors like you and like the team who all come from a similar perspective of really just trying to serve that individual across the desk from you.
Mhm.
That is why when I talked to a client yesterday, she was saying it's such a different experience coming to asset strategies and working with an advisor. So, Mandy, thank you for walking through this. I hope it's been very helpful
Yes.
for folks who are considering having a conversation. And if you are interested in having a conversation with an asset strategies financial advisor, it starts by booking a welcome call with a member of our team. We'll include a link with this video for you to book that call. No cost, no obligation for that, or even the first appointment. Just coming in and having that conversation and seeing how you feel and how asset strategies is able to take what you have
Mhm.
and help you move towards the goals that you are looking to achieve.
Right.
Yeah. Mandy, thanks so much.
Of course.
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you.